Hello, hello, hello. I'm Dan Salem. I'm live on the BuzzChomp YouTube channel, here to talk with you live NFL debate. It's fantasy football today again. Really hasn't gotten started. Not much is happening. And the MLB All-Star game just kicked off 10 minutes ago. Woo, go baseball. So there's nothing officially happening today that counts in professional American sports. I'm live on BuzzChomp. I'm going to go live on Facebook, and then we'll get this debate started. And 3, 2, 1. Hello, hello. I'm Dan Salem. I am live on Facebook at the Dan Salem. Hey, Maddie. I'm also over on the BuzzChomp YouTube channel live. Always at the Dan Salem on Twitter and Instagram. So, it's middle of July. MLB All-Star games tonight. ESPYs are tomorrow. No professional American sport is participating in action that counts because the All-Star game in baseball does not count. So we're talking fantasy football. That's right. Leagues are open. You can do draft prep for your draft next month. I'm playing fantasy baseball. We are on a pause today because there are no baseball games. You don't get pauses in fantasy football. And that's probably a good thing. It's a short 16 weeks. Baseball lasts months. Fun. So for fantasy football, if you are joining me now, you are interested. Who is the top 5? Last week, we discussed how to win your fantasy football league. And I gave 5 and a bonus 6 rules to follow to win. And honestly, don't break them. And one of the rules was you have to get lucky. So that's kind of like that was the bonus. You do need to get lucky to win fantasy football. That being said, you also need one of these top 5 players, if not 2 of them. Now, the majority of these players are running backs. The reason being, there are fewer running backs who consistently score a lot of points on a weekly basis. So you need one of them to win, period. You kind of need them. Or you need to get lucky with somebody else that also scores just as well. So, top running backs: Todd Gurley, Le'Veon Bell, Ezekiel Elliott, David Johnson, and some fringe running backs that may be great. Kareem Hunt, Mark Ingram, but he's suspended. LaShawn McCoy, but he's in legal trouble. Saquon Barkley, but he's a rookie. That's 8. 3 with major question marks. You following my drift here? The top 5 is dominated by running backs because there are not a lot of running backs that you can count on to score a weekly basis. That's not to say there aren't any good running backs. I mean, I play in a league. It's an auction draft, so you're bidding. So you got to outbid your opponents, not draft snake-wise. But we start 3 running backs every week, which means if you are going to win the league, you need to get lucky and have 2 you can count on weekly and 1 that you're swapping out that hopefully scores a touchdown. It's a challenge. And it's one that you need to meet. Okay. So we also play in a keeper league. It behooves me to keep the running back that I have who's the best. So who's the top 5? Now, Todd and I wrote about this, and it will go up tomorrow on NFL Spin Zone. And we debated. But there was little debate on actually who the top 5 players are, and it was more the debate of the order. Because as I noted, Saquon Barkley is a rookie, so he hasn't proven himself. The big risk to take him top 5. LaShawn McCoy, now, he had a great season in Buffalo, but the Bills are kind of in turmoil. And he's been accused of some rather damning things. I don't think that it's questionable or not whether he set up his ex-girlfriend to get beaten up because they broke up a year ago and she refused to leave his house. He tried to evict her and she refused to leave. So she basically was squatting in his home. And so he had every reason to get her out. We don't know if he set her up, but there was a home invasion in which jewelry that he gave to her that he had been demanding back was stolen and she got beaten up. And now she's out of the house. Too many coincidences there. I love you, Maddie. But it may be difficult to prove that he was involved. And I have a feeling he'll play the whole season. But regardless, this is looming over him, and it's got to be pretty distracting. So whether or not he can focus on football and use that to, like, Sorry. Pop-up messages questioning my actions on Instagram. Kind of annoying. Anywho, back to the topic at hand. See my name, can't help but read it. Nope, that's just my water. Mom will get you your own water. I'm live. Right? Am I right? Anyways, I'm live talking about a question that a friend asked that wasn't directed at me, but about me. And now they're inquiring more, and I'm reading them all because I'm using my wife's computer. Anyways, not going to pry, but it's hard not to read. Side note. Okay, back to the fantasy football. So McCoy's an interesting option, and we're going to debate who's 6 and 7. And that's where the quarterbacks may or may not sneak into the discussion. But there are no quarterbacks in the fantasy football top 5 because sorry, I'm laughing now, realizing she's probably watching it twice every time. Anytime you tag me, she's watching it twice. Anyways, this is stupid Instagram. Anyways, there are no quarterbacks in the fantasy football top 5 because the drop-off between the 1st and the 10th quarterback is not significant. However, the drop-off between the 1st and the 10th running back is staggering. The drop-off between the 1st and the 10th wide receiver is also rather large. Now, the drop-off between the 5th and the 10th wide receiver is not that large. But the top wide receiver, Antonio Brown, has been far and away better than his peers. Now, the second wide receiver each year has been like right on his level, but that person's kind of changed. So the second and third wide receivers are on Brown's level, but we don't quite know who that may or may not be. So Brown stands above. Brown's in the top 5. The top wide receiver is in the fantasy football top 5, Antonio Brown, because he's far and away better than number 10. And while tied with number 2, we don't quite know who 2 will be. Could be Julio Jones. Could be this. I don't know who else I'm throw out there. Somebody Aaron Rodgers is throwing to. And I wanted to throw in here as an honorable mention the top tight end because Travis Kelce is far and away better than the 5th tight end. But he's not that much better than the 2nd or 3rd tight end, and he doesn't score touchdowns every week, so he doesn't score enough points to warrant top 5. But I would consider him in the top 10 because he is by far the best at his position. So we are not having any quarterbacks. There are basically 4 running backs and 1 wide receiver in the fantasy football top 5 because I think Brown is better, and he's the best wide receiver. And the Pittsburgh Steelers love to throw the ball. Le'Veon Bell status now in question. They're going to throw more if they can, and they're also going to start developing their other running backs. Now, that's not going to say they're not going to use Bell because they want to make the playoffs and win Super Bowl. And Bell's a top 5 player. That's why I chose this picture. Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, both top 5 fantasy football players. Ooh, good job. My daughter's throwing a tennis ball. You're great at that. Excellent. Teach you to catch next. Okay, so Bell and Brown are in the top 5. So are Ezekiel Elliott, Todd Gurley, and David Johnson. Now, I tried to make an argument for putting Kareem Hunt ahead of David Johnson because David Johnson's coming off a serious injury. He missed the season. However, and he only had 1 great year. But Kareem Hunt only had 1 great year, and David Johnson's great year was better. He's also on a team that needs him to dominate more than the Chiefs need Hunt to dominate. The Arizona Cardinals may or may not be starting their rookie quarterback, and they don't have Larry Fitzgerald's towards the end of his career. So David Johnson is the biggest threat on that team, and he was when he dominated. He's going to be. They're going to give him the ball a ton. He's going to be a workhorse. That's assuming there's a little risk there because assuming he recovers and returns from injury at 100%. But Kareem Hunt is not the only weapon in that offense. Travis Kelce's in that offense. They got Sammy Watkins. And now, granted, I feel like they're going to run the ball a lot because of the quarterback situation and the turnover with Mahomes taking over. But Andy Reid's a balanced guy. And Hunt did really well last season, but he only scored 8 touchdowns. He was second most in yards, but he only scored 8 touchdowns. And every fantasy football player knows you want the player with more touchdowns over the player with more yards because that's more points. So you want the double-digit touchdown guys. And that's why we got David Johnson, Gurley, Elliott, and Belle, and Brown as the top 5 players. So, any other questions? Do you understand? Those are the top 5 players, correct? The debate is over the order because those are the top 5 guys. So, if you're in a snake draft and you have one of the first 5 picks, you should pick one of those 5 players. If you have pick 6, you better hope someone makes a mistake. Pick 6 is tough. Do you grab Kareem Hunt? Do you grab Saquon Barkley because you think he's going to be amazing? Do you grab Kelsey because he's the best tight end? Do you grab Aaron Rodgers? You second? She's on board with Kelsey. Do you? Hi, I love you. Do you grab Aaron Rodgers because he tends to be far and away the best quarterback? Or do you grab a rushing quarterback like Russell Wilson, who is his team's entire offense? There are a lot of difficult decisions to make with pick 6 or 7 if you're in a snake draft. 1 through 5, you better pick one of these players. Now, I'll spoiler alert it. Todd likes Le'Veon Bell as the number 1 pick. I like Todd Gurley. I think there's less risk picking Gurley. Yes, he's had a down year, but the Rams are coming off a tremendous offensive season. I don't see any reason to think it's going to take a downturn. And they like to run the football. And Gurley, he's good in the passing game too. So if Goff slacks off, they're going to hand him the ball more. And this team is not the team that he's like 2 seasons ago when he didn't have a lot of yards and he suffered fantasy-wise. This is not that team. This is a completely rejuvenated, renewed team with a new offense, not that team. Gurley's the man. I give Bell a knock because he may choose to protect his body. And I don't know, the Steelers, they need to develop the guy behind him. And yes, he's playing for a contract, but he's already proven himself. He's getting a ton of money this season. So I expect him to play every game. I don't know how the Steelers are going to utilize him because if his backup is good and they want to develop the backup to replace him, they're going to split time. They don't have any incentive to play Bell. And I don't know if they can't really trade him, can they, by the trade deadline? And it would be like a half a season rental. There's potential for them to trade him, but they would want him in there because he's one of the best players. There's just some gray area there with the Steelers, and I don't think that he's going to hold out, but he's not technically under contract. I will read this to you when I'm done live streaming, okay? But thank you. I would love to read to you. You have to wait till I'm done live streaming. He's not under contract because they franchise tagged him. So I guess his contract starts when he joins the team. So he can hold out, and then he sacrifice money, but he just has to play the second half to get a full season of eligibility. So, and he's playing for that next deal. So there's just a little gray area there. So I knocked him out of the number 1 spot. He was number 3 for me because I love Ezekiel Elliott, and the Cowboys need him more than ever before. He was great in the passing game too. They do not have a proven weapon outside of him on offense. I mean, Dak Prescott, sure, but we don't know exactly who he's going to be thrown to. We do know that Elliott's going to be getting the football a lot, and he's done well when he did. He's had a slow start last year after I think because the suspension was looming over it, and then he got suspended. He's a stud. So I like him. I mean, Bell's a better player. I just feel like there's questions around Bell that I don't have with Elliott. Now, there's questions. Some people question whether he can maintain this pace, whether he's going to be as good. I don't have that doubt in my mind. I don't. And that leaves David Johnson at 4 because he's coming back from a serious injury, and it just makes me a little nervous. I think he's going to be great. He should / be the number 1 or number 2 player. So this order is fluid, but I would put him at 4 because he's coming off injury and there's a little risk there. And the Browns 5 because while he's the best receiver, he should be taken after these 4 running backs. Okay, so those are your 5 guys, right? Who do you pick at 6? It's really hard. I mean, I'm a big proponent of quarterback, but I finished 3rd last year in fantasy football, so I lost in the playoffs and came in 3rd place. But this is a keeper league. I've managed to acquire Ezekiel Elliott, Antonio Brown, and Travis Kelce. So those are my keepers. And so I didn't go with the top quarterbacks, but I ran with Phillip Rivers and Matthew Stafford, who both always seem to get great fantasy numbers regardless of how their teams do. So I picked like quarterbacks ranked 5 through 10 and crushed it because I had number 1 tight end, number 1 wide receiver, and number 2 or 3 running back. And I took the risk with Elliott, even with the suspension. He missed a few games, and I was okay. So that was my strategy, and it's a good one. So, however, if you miss out on the top running wide receiver and you miss out on one of the top 4 running backs, you probably got to try to snatch like LaShawn McCoy or Kareem Hunt or Saquon Barkley if you think he's going to be that great, because you need a top running back. And those guys have potential to be a top 5 back and unseat one of the top ones we already listed. I wouldn't go wide receiver just yet because there are several guys that are all going to be really good. I would go – I lean towards almost going quarterback. I love Aaron Rodgers. Yes, he got hurt last year. I love Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback. He is not significantly better than Drew Brees or Phillip Rivers or Ben Roethlisberger statistically and fantasy-wise. He's not significantly better. That being said, he is better. And I think he seems to always get his numbers, whereas the other guys have a down game or two. Rodgers maybe has 1 a season, whereas these guys may have a few. And that being said, you got to consider the quarterbacks' competition, who are they playing. The teams in Rodgers' division this year are tough. The Vikings are tough. I mean, the Bears and the Lions, I don't know. Roethlisberger's division, I think, is tough. I like the Phillip Rivers option because I don't think the AFC West has particularly great defense. Now, people are high on Denver and Kansas City still up, but I think he's got a favorable schedule. Who else has a favorable schedule? I don't know. There's a lot of risk in trying to grab like a Carson Wentz because you don't know how he's going to return. Kirk Cousins in Minnesota, tough schedule, but great team. I like Jared Goff because I don't think that the NFC West presents great defense. The 49ers don't have a good defense. Seattle is iffy. I don't know what to make of. They could be good, they could be bad. And Arizona, So I like the Rams, their offense. They get to play those teams twice each. That's 6 games. That's a lot of offense. Now, you can make that argument for Tom Brady, except that I don't know who he's throwing the ball to. I don't know who's running the ball for the Patriots yet. I don't know if the offensive line can protect him sufficiently like they did last season. There's a lot of question marks there, and he's keeps aging up. He's at that point where at any given time he will hit his wall, and he will be a step back. It happened for Peyton Manning, and it was like one season he was the MVP, and the next season he was mediocre. And you didn't know until it happened, and then it happened because he was at that point in his career where he just lost a half a second on his release, and it made all the difference. He lost a half a second in his drop back time, and it made all the difference. It's going to happen to Brady because he's aging. It happens to everybody at different points in their life. Now, he's doing everything to combat that, but I consider him a fantasy football risk because of it. The Patriots always seem to get their numbers too. Last year, Deion Lewis, I had him. He was excellent. I like him on his new team as well. Whoever's the Patriots running back will be a good bet because I love you, because they're going to run more than they have in the past because of Brady. They need to protect Tom Brady. Ooh, watch your head, sweetie. They need to protect Tom Brady, and that means running the football more. I just don't know who it's going to be yet. There's some question marks there that make me a little nervous. So the 6th and 7th pick, that's tricky. But top 5, you better grab one. So auction. Let's talk auction for a moment before we wrap up for the night. You have to bid on these players. My brother made a good point, and you'll read it tomorrow. If you can pay $3 to $5 less for the 4th best running back as compared to the number 1, do it. There's not that big a difference between these 4 guys. If you can pay $10 less for Hunt, do it. There's not that big a difference between him, assuming he finds the end zone at least the number of times he did last year. The end zone, the touchdowns were less for him, but the yards weren't. You okay? You burping? I see you got a little on the floor there. You okay? Yeah, well, I'll clean it up for you when I'm done, okay? You're okay. So don't overpay, but don't miss them. So this is a real tricky game. This is why auction drafts are so much fun. because you can't miss on one of these 5 guys. You have to draft one, and you are in the position to do so as long as you keep bidding enough. And it's worth it to overpay. I seriously questioned whether I wanted to keep the 3 players I did, because in doing so, I had to pay their market value. But we're drafting an auction league. These guys would have went for over their market value because someone had to get them, and they were going to overpay for them to make sure they got one of these top 5 guys. So I kept them, saved a little money, and have great players on my team. And I did it. I mean, it's a balancing act, and that's why luck's involved, and that's why skill is involved. But you need one of these guys. Bottom line. I'm Dan Salem. I am live every Tuesday, 5 p.m. Pacific time. BuzzChomp's YouTube channel and over on Facebook at the Dan Salem. Hit me up on Instagram or Twitter at the Dan Salem. I love to chit chat. Send me something funny and I'll comment back sarcastically. I don't know. Thank you for joining me. I'll be live again next week, and have a great rest of your evening, and good night. Ooh. Trying to hit the button. Button doesn't want to be hit. Girl complaining that I reshare all